Matt, what was the thing that was most surprising to you in your research?
If we think about these moments of hesitation, which again are happening a lot these days, which is, we got to get the customer from their status quo to get them to agree with our vision and then get them to buy our solution. And a lot of times in sales, where the customer starts to pull away from us is kind of after they've stated their intent to move forward, but before they actually execute the DocuSign or sign on the dotted line. Now, what salespeople have been taught to do for a very, very long time is they dial up the FOMO, the fear of missing out. So Gerhard, you must have missed how amazing the ROI projection is. Or maybe you didn't see how cool this feature is. Let's get back in the demo. Let me show it to you again. But what was really surprising to us was that approach or that set of approaches backfires way more often than it works out. 84% of the time, with a customer who stated their intent to move forward, using those FOMO tactics actually makes it more likely the deal will be lost to no decision. And what we found was, when we unpack this, is that there are two reasons that no decision losses happen. One is the one we're all familiar with. The customer still prefers their status quo, or they think their status quo is good enough, or changing it is not a top priority. Dialing up the FOMO with those customers makes perfect sense. But it turns out more often, the customer is not struggling or not enamored with their status quo, doesn't prefer their status quo. They're actually indecisive and frankly fearful about how to change it. The better approach is to dial down what we call the FOMO, the fear of messing up, because that's the thing the customer really is holding them up and keeping them from moving forward. So in sales, we need two playbooks. We've got to beat the status quo. We've got to dial up the FOMO. But once the customer is convinced that they need to move forward with us, then we've got to instill the confidence that they've made a great decision. They're working with a true expert, us as a salesperson, who can guide them to making a great decision. And we've given them every assurance of success. They're going to look like a hero, not like a fool, by buying our solution.
So, Matt, how do you get a customer to talk about their fears?
Questions we know in sales are very, very important. Diagnostic questions, understanding customer needs, super important. It's a core skill of all great salespeople. So what we do and what best salespeople do is they use a technique, we call it pings and echoes. So if the vision I want salespeople to think of like a surface ship on the surface of the water, trying to detect a submarine below the water. There's two ways to do it, of course. One, you can listen to that submarine making noise. So we've got to tune in our listening and pick up on the signs of indecision. And the second thing we do, if the customer's not giving us anything, but we suspect they're worried about one of these fears of failure, is we ping and listen for the echo back. And so what this might sound like, and what it actually does sound like when we look at sales calls, is the salesperson saying to the customer, Gerhard, I'm picking up that maybe you're a little bit concerned that you haven't configured the solution the right way. And just to let you know, every customer who buys our solution goes through that hesitation at some point. So it's perfectly normal because I put a lot in front of you and I'm sure it all looks great. And it's tough to make a decision about what's in the proposal and what gets out of the shop, comes out of the shopping cart. So let's talk about that. But what I'm doing is I'm sending out that ping and I'm listening for the echo back from you, for you to say, yeah, Matt, I got to be honest, I am kind of struggling and I don't want to make the wrong decision. Or you might say, no, that's not my concern at all. My concern is, are we buying too much? Are we buying too many lessons? Will people really get the value out of this solution?
Try to understand the customer's brain. And NIH research tells us that we experience about 60,000 thoughts a day. And 80% of them are negative. I think it would be a good idea for the salesperson to change perspective and understand that cloud of negativity that most buyers already have before you arrive. I think that salespeople need a healthy negativity bias and have a healthier understanding and more sympathy or more empathy, if you will, for the buyer's concerns, because it's not just that they're worried about making the wrong decision or making a mistake about the decision, but they're also worried about 17 other things at the same time.
And my guidance has been, and it may be simplified, but I say, look, before you break out those FOMO tactics and try to create the burning platform or scare your customer into action or dangle that disappearing discount in front of them, hit pause for a moment, because that might be what's required in a certain customer situation. But oftentimes, for customers already convinced that they need to leave the status quo and is already convinced that you are the solution provider to work with, but are instead worried about, have I configured this the right way? Have I done enough research? And do I have any assurance of success? For that customer, it comes across as tone deaf, best case. And worst case, what you're doing is you're using scare tactics to sell to somebody who's already afraid. And it's really not a very empathetic approach to engage the customer. When we can dial down that fear of messing up and instill that confidence or the self-efficacy our customers need to feel like, boy, this is all going to be great. I'm making a great decision here. This is going to work out. And this salesperson I'm working with, I trust implicitly because they're invested in my success. That is a much easier purchase experience for our customer too. It is less emotion laden. It is easier. It's more frictionless. And you know what's interesting is that this indecision is not just something that keeps deals from getting done. It can often linger long after the contract is signed. So if we think about churn, right, and customers who are looking for a way out and are not fully embracing what they've just bought, which create headaches for customer success and for our account managers and for customer support and everybody who's got to take that contract and that customer and help deliver value. It's a very different mindset again that salespeople need to adopt to be successful, not only to get the sale, but to create a platform or a foundation for value that we can deliver to the customer long after the contract is signed.
It is a mindset shift. And if the salesperson is the leader of that mindset shift, then the customer will follow.